take projection.
Welcome everybody to Taking On Sports. I am TD. That is Greg. Greg, how you doing today, man?
I am good. How are you today, sir?
I'm pretty good. It's football season.
Man,
It's I know exactly, man.
man, what a
it,
way to
fe-
start off the year.
right? It felt good to just sit yesterday. Wife went out of town on a family thing. It was just me and the kid, just watch football all day.
Nice, yeah,
It was a good day. Good day. It wasn't the sexiest lineup of games, but we ended up with a couple of real good ones.
we did.
Um, I guess we'll kick it off because we're at the Alabama take. We'll start with Alabama, a 56-7 win over Middle Tennessee State. Um, all the big questions coming in about the
Mhm.
quarterback, how the defense looked, and I think they answered a lot of them well. I guess we got to start with the quarterback because that's what the talk of the offseason. But Jalen Milroe looked good, accounted
We
for
did.
5 touchdowns. Um, had a couple of deep touchdown passes too. The deep ball was working, and that's really something we need from him. That accuracy on that deep ball. We know he can throw it.
Yeah,
Just got to hit it. But it looked good. Of course, that first play made something out of nothing. Bad snap, and he picks it up and runs it in for a touchdown. That's kind of what he brings to us. What do you think of Milroe, and then the other quarterbacks when we saw Buckner and a little bit of Simpson?
well, first, I thought Jalen, for all the supposed uncertainty of who the guy is gonna be, I mean, he seemed like the guy. He did what we wanted. We saw what we wanted to see. Most importantly, he was able to throw 3 touchdown passes. I mean, we know about his running abilities. That's no secret. But the biggest thing is what can he do as a passer? And he had some impressive passes. He was on target. He didn't have any bad. He had maybe 1 or 2 bad throws, but overall, he threw the ball well. He ran the ball well. He seemed to stay within the game, and it seemed to come easy to him last night. Of course, it was week one, and against Middle Tennessee State, but I thought he fared very well. I maybe a little better than what I thought he would, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. You kind of worried. What I always saw from last year, he had the start over A&M. Took over for Bryce in the Arkansas game. Started A&M, then had a kind of a rough game versus A&M. And that's just what we knew of him. We knew that
Right.
he's an incredible athlete, maybe the best athlete on the team, and we knew that he can. He's got a cannon of an arm, but it's just his accuracy is his trouble. And
Yeah.
at the level Alabama plays at, you need accuracy. And I thought he came in, ran the offense well. I liked, the play calling. Tommy Reese came in. I liked what we did. I think we talked about in the offseason. I think his strength as a coordinator is playing to the strengths of his personnel.
Yeah.
It helps when you got 3 guys over 350 on the offensive
Oh, man.
line. We would line
Monsters.
up and pound the
Yeah.
ball. We'll definitely see. Next week. We'll see how that goes against big time competition. But yeah,
Okay.
Milroe. The biggest thing that stands out for me, I had it, in my notes, is the deep ball. We knew that's something that he has to use to unlock to really take the top off the defense,
Hmm.
and open up space underneath for the himself to run and the backs to run. And man, it looked pretty. He had a couple really good looking deep balls.
Yeah. It was 2 touchdown deep balls. Looked
And hitting
really good.
people in stride too. You know,
Yeah. Look good, perfectly thrown, and of course, people are gonna say, "Well, look who they're playing," but it's about the placement, and no matter who you're playing with, that placement was there. so,
yeah,
uh,
exactly, yeah.
I mean, that was what you wanted to see. I thought he passed the test of what we want to see in week one. I mean, you can only gather so much from week one, but everything that I saw from him, I mean, he's definitely shown improvement. He seems to have a much better, well, new offense, of course, but he seems to have an understanding of what they expect of him there, and I'd say you can't ask for too much more than what he gave us last night, for sure.
Yeah, he didn't seem to try to force anything. He seemed really comfortable, and that's that's real positive going forward. That's real confidence. It makes you confident as a fan.
Yeah,
Elsewhere on the offense, I got just that stable of backs we have, man. That's ooh,
that's
um,
a talented
yeah,
bunch. Like,
exactly. Yeah, we lost Trey Sanders in the offseason, and it doesn't look like it matters at all. As talented as he was, man. Just McClellan and all those guys. Just trying to look up stats here real quick on them.
I mean, it wasn't like the sexiest numbers, but when they ran it,
Uh-uh.
it was definitely you could, they ran with purpose. They had holes to go through, and that's what you want to see there. Of course, with that big offensive line, that's what you want to see because it's going to come time when you're going to have to be able to run the ball. And next
Mhm.
week we're going to probably have to run the ball pretty effectively, and you see all the potential there for that. So, I like,
Yeah, the overall numbers for individuals weren't great. Milroe led the team with 48 yards, but 205 as a team,
yeah,
and as a team averaged 5.1 a carry. That's the big
that,
thing.
yeah, for sure.
McClellan averaged 3.9. Roydell Williams averaged 5.1 himself. Justice Haynes only had 4 rushes, but he had averaged 7.3 on each of them. Richard Young came in there. Jam Miller got um, little action in the end. I mean, hell, Ty Buckner came in. He got a running
Yeah,
touchdown
got the
himself.
running touchdown. So did and so did Ty Simpson. And really, that's the funny thing. Like all the things about Jalen being able to run the ball, all three quarterbacks have some wheels on them. So
Yeah, Simpsons was, of course, he had an 11-yard run, and then he got that, the sneak for the touchdown. But
right,
Buckner too. Speaking of quarterback, he only 5 pass attempts, completed 3 of them for 27 yards. They didn't really open it up. His first series in, they ran up the
right.
middle twice, and then he had a third and long throw that drifted out of bounds. But um,
The
so
second,
it looks like it's Milrose,
yeah,
completely. Now, if he struggles next week, maybe we see some more Buckner or Simpson.
right,
But
yeah. I mean, he was a quarterback till the fourth quarter.
yeah,
Pretty much. I mean, I think he's been the guy. It's just a matter of we're waiting to actually. Saban was just waiting to put that out. Because I think if there's uncertainty or you want to see something, you maybe put him. We're comfortable going into the half. You could have easily put either one of those other guys in to start the second half if there really was a close competition. So I'm thinking it was Milroe's job the whole time. No one really took anything from him that made him think this is the direction we need to go.
yeah, and Coach Saban famously, he's not going to tell you much about his depth chart, so he may have known longer than he was letting on. Um,
Yeah,
but Milroe looked like the guy, more
yeah, he
importantly
did.
than
Yeah,
just being the guy that the coaches put in there for better or
yeah,
worse. He looked like he was a guy, and Buckner looked capable as the backup. And that's
yeah,
what you want. You want, if something happens to Milroe or whatever, you want the confidence in that second guy to come in and,
exactly.
uh, you know, and he looks like, obviously he knows the offense. So, but again, with that stable of backs, that's great for any quarterback.
Yeah, sure.
Receivers look good. Isaiah Bond,
Yeah,
he looked pretty good. He caught one of those deep passes. Jim Rain Burton caught the other one. Amari Black, he came in, caught a nice, that was another great throw from Milroe,
that
that kind
was
of corner route touchdown.
perfect throw.
Yeah. You still want to see one of them really step up and become that number one
Be
guy
the
or
man.
that big time playmaker. The guy that you can throw a short pass to and he can break it big for a long one.
Oh
But
yeah,
we got time to work on that.
for
Um,
sure. Yeah, there's been and people are. I think people are looking to Bond to maybe be that next big time wide receiver at this point.
mhm.
He showed signs of it yesterday for sure. So yeah, it's just a matter of just seeing what they do, and we don't even necessarily need not even maybe not even 1,000 yard receiver. It's just having guys that you can count on at the right time that you can feel comfortable that if we need it's 3rd and 6, we can look to you to catch the ball.
Yeah.
someone feel comfortable with, we're not, oh dang, here we go. you know,
Exactly. Yeah, guys that, like you said, they turn those third downs into first downs, even if it's not on a touchdown drive. If it gets you a couple extra yards, flip field position or just extended drive, give your defense rest. Guys that can make tough catches when the throw might not be right on the money.
exactly.
Like you said, those are the guys we're looking. And yeah, Bond looked really good. Burton looked better.
Burton did look
Um,
better. Had some issues with drops last year, and I think he maybe just a second year in the system feels more comfortable. But yeah, he looked like he was more part of the team, more or less more a team and not an outsider. Last year's kind of he's there, but yeah, he seemed more kind of uh, in tune with everybody yesterday.
yeah. And of course, you also wonder how much how what we didn't show out of the playbook
Yeah,
too.
right.
I'm sure
I'm
that we
sure
got a whole
pretty
lot of other stuff. We didn't get the tight ends involved too much in the passing game. I'm sure they'll be a more crucial part going forward.
right.
Um, but yeah, on the other side of the ball, defensively, we're looking all the offseason talk is about how this unit wanted to get back to being similar to the early Saban defenses, the hateful bunches, if you will.
Hmm.
Um, and they looked good, man. They looked hungry, and that's what I
After,
wanted to see. They were flying to the ball.
yeah.
And the one big thing in my notes I got is that it wasn't just one guy that was there on the ball, like on a sweep or a quick pass. It was like
Oh,
2, 3, 4 guys there.
right there.
Um, yeah, and it feels like in the past couple of years, it was like one guy that was there to make a play, but if he missed, then no one else was there to help clean it up.
Right. It's the
And
cleanup
yesterday,
definitely did.
yesterday that was not the case. There were guys flying all over. How the defense look to you?
For the week one, I thought they were, like you said, they were hungry. They got after the quarterback, got a couple of sacks, and it was good to see him also get some turnovers there. Um,
Hmm.
Jaden Key had the big interception. You know, that, it was good to see that because we only had 7 turnovers the entire season last year. We got 2 yesterday, so
Right.
we're working quickly towards passing that 7 mark. Yeah, but they were just hungry. They looked like they want to get back to what Alabama's known for, the strong defense that's not going to give up a lot of points. Just certain pride that, the Alabama defense is known for. They don't want to give up points. They don't want to give up big plays. Uh, and they want to get back to being one of the most respected defenses in America. So I liked what I saw. Some missed things, but hey, that's week one, and that's going to happen. But couldn't ask for too
Yeah.
much more than what it was.
Yeah, exactly. And we talked about penalties. Only 2 penalties yesterday.
It
Um,
was the whole game.
yeah, great. And then third down was a big thing. Both sides of the ball last year. On offense, we were 10 of 13 on third downs, and we held them to 6 of 16. So that's pretty good. Again, like we said, it's week one. It's Middle Tennessee State. A solid program, but not on our level.
Right.
We'll know more next week.
We will.
You know, Texas comes to town. Um, but yeah, we'll get to that. The other big game, let's see, moving on, unless you got anything else to add about us.
I guess the biggest concerns are just the Malachi Moore injury, just and
Hmm.
Jaden Key both. He got hurt after the end of the interception. Malachi Moore got hurt. Just see how they look going into the next week. But I would assume it wasn't too serious, but those are just two bigger injuries I guess I saw there.
Yeah, you definitely two big parts in the secondary that you really want to hold up.
Right.
Kind of a secondary that's raw anyway. But yeah, moving on, the other big story coming out of yesterday, Coach Prime and the
Hmm.
Colorado Buffaloes went into Fort Worth and upset TCU. Um, of course, a lot of talk all off season. Fox spent a lot of advertising time hyping up this game, and I think a lot of us thought it might be a dud, like TCU might kind of roll through them, or at least kind of slowly put them away. And it was definitely the game of the day.
Oh man, was
Back and forth, Colorado wins 45-42, and man, we don't know how far it'll extend, into the season. They play USC and Oregon at the end of this month, so we'll really know more
We'll
then.
find we'll find
Yeah.
out.
But
Uh,
for yesterday, man, they look good. I mean, Travis Hunter played over 100 snaps, both sides of the ball, had over 100 yards receiving, uh, great touchdown catch, almost another great diving one, an absolutely unbelievable interception to
and
stop
maybe
a short touchdown on the other end.
game changer.
Yeah,
you know,
he is just the real deal.
yeah.
Um,
Like people are gonna stop throwing to that side of the field completely. Like
yeah, and they need to. Yeah, that you just do not
not
need
what,
to throw to his side of the field.
yeah,
You do wonder if he can keep that up. I mean, 100
right.
snaps a game. I mean, even as good a shape and as young as you are, man, that's a lot of wear and tear. But
Man, yeah, 100
I-
snaps in 12 games. Oof,
yeah, that's a lot of football. It's a lot of wear and tear on your body. But yeah, he absolutely outstanding. No wonder he was the number one in his class.
yeah,
And then Shador Sanders,
wow.
man, just breaking Colorado records left and right, over 500 yards passing, 4 touchdowns. Just looked great throwing. I think he only had 9 incompletions, was like 38 of 47 or something.
Four 100-yard receivers.
Yeah, yeah, 4 100-yard receivers, absolutely
Just ridiculous.
insane.
Just, uh,
Um,
just crazy. I mean, it was like if that was a script for a movie, you'd be like, this is stupid. you
yeah,
know,
yeah, right.
you just why like
It's
Hollywood is
some
making this movie.
PlayStation numbers right there.
I mean, it was just. I mean, you knew that they had some talent there, but to that extent, because I mean, honestly, we saw Shadur Sanders 2 years at Jackson State. He was good, but it was against FCS opponents for the most part.
Hmm.
So, but he just brought it up on the road against maybe not as good a team as last year, but still a respected program, and just went crazy.
Yeah, his throws are on the money. Look
I mean,
great. He makes plays with his feet. Extends plays. Scrambles out of pressure. Yeah, I mean,
That's phenomenal. I mean, you just have to think, NFL guys like, wait, we're changing our boards up as we speak because I mean,
hmm
Shador Sanders just jumped on 100 boards. I mean, it's just crazy. Just a epic story. I mean, they held up. Week one there was a lot of questions, and they answered the questions. And for what week one is worth. I guess long term, the main thing you wonder about is I would say that defense overall. I mean,
hmm
TCU was able to go up and down the field for the most part as they liked. So they got some key stops there, of course, at the end there. But long term, that's going to be their biggest concern. I mean, the offense is there. I mean, they have so many playmakers, the wide receiver, the running backs. I mean, the court. I mean, they're a talented bunch, but I'd say that defense is going to be the biggest concern on the year because they're going to face some good offenses in the next couple of weeks.
yeah. If there's a area of concern, it's I think the lines, both of them for Colorado. Um, but yeah, you mentioned it's not the same TCU as the national runner-up last year, so you wonder how much of this was it was obviously a great performance by Colorado, not taking any
Yeah,
of that away from them. But you do wonder how much of it is them, and then how much of it is TCU had a lot of turnover on that roster. They're not the same team.
right.
They may very well turn it around and even win the
Yeah,
Big 12 still, but it's not
mm,
the team that beat Michigan last January, December.
yeah. And
But yeah, go
I would
ahead.
say the quarterback, Chandler Morris, he looked good at time, but he had some bad throws, and he didn't
Yeah,
not near as clutch as what Max Duggan was last year. Because on that 4th and 9, Max Duggan running that thing at the end of the game. He's finding a way to get that
Oh yeah,
fourth.
he's putting the team on his back, and he is lowering his shoulder and sacrificing his body into someone. But
Yeah,
that'll come in time, maybe,
yeah,
hopefully, if you're TCU fan.
yeah,
But with Colorado now, so you wonder, is a bowl possibility? We think that that would be, you know, I mean, honestly, if this is the only game they win, it's kind of a successful season because just,
yeah.
it's obviously shows they got a spark in their believe. But you would think that they could beat Nebraska at home next week.
Oh,
Nebraska, losers to Minnesota. They might be a little desperate, but I just think they're still the roster's not there for them. I think Matt Rule's a good hire. He'll probably
yeah.
turn it around there.
He has to get the right people in to run what he wants to run.
Yeah, and you would think Colorado first home game in the Dion era, they're going to be hyped. Another
He had
big noon
that
game or whatever.
atmosphere older since forever. It's been a long
Yeah,
time. We'll see the atmosphere in Boulder
hmm
on Saturday. Another
but
big game on Fox there. So yeah, they're
hmm
going to be hyped for that. And at one point was somewhat of a rivalry there in the Big 8 days for sure. Big 12 some.
oh yeah, it used to be the decider in that Big 12 North,
Yeah,
de
sure.
facto Big 12 North championship game.
Um,
Um, but yeah, so you look ahead to Colorado's schedule. So say they can beat Nebraska. The next week they got the Rocky Mountain Classic, Colorado State. They should be able to beat them. So that's
yeah,
3 wins.
3 wins right there.
And then it's
Right.
where, you look down the road. They have Stanford at home later. They should be able to beat them. They have Arizona at home. You would think if this team shows up, they beat Arizona. So that's 5 wins. And you need one more for that bowl. And that's where you wonder where it comes from. So at the end of this month, they have to go travel to Eugene,
Hmm.
play Oregon. And then the next week, they get USC comes to Boulder, which now, especially if TCU or Colorado ends up, 3-1 coming into that game, or
Wow.
if they upset Oregon, then obviously that's a
Game.
that's a game day. That's a
Yeah, for sure.
but then they have to travel to Arizona State, which is just Arizona State's a little not as good as they have been, but it's still a
Oh
road
no.
game.
Yeah.
At UCLA, which did UCLA end up winning last night? I actually didn't see that
They,
over
they
Coastal.
did. They pulled out the second half. They kind of pulled away in the fourth
Okay.
quarter. Yeah, 27-13. It was close for a minute there.
Then they got kind of everybody's darling Oregon State comes to Boulder, and then they in the season back-to-back road games in Washington State and Utah. So they'd have to steal a game somewhere if they win the ones we think we should. But if they play like that every game, I don't see why Colorado can't turn it around and get to a bowl game.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, the main thing now is just the defense getting better every week,
Mm-hmm.
and that offense. I don't see them having problem continuing. I mean, maybe not to that magnitude as far as the numbers, because those are once in a lifetime numbers for
Mm-hmm.
a lot of that. But I would say that I wouldn't be shocked if this team continues to put up, 300-400 yards passing the game, able to
Mm-hmm.
run the ball pretty, somewhat successfully. Because honestly, I don't see them really playing a defense. I mean, there's not a defense that they're gonna. Maybe Utah, but outside of that, there's not really a defense where you're like, man, someone's really gonna shut down this offense. Are they gonna be able to shut down other teams' offenses? That's the big. I think that'll be the big question.
Yeah.
When they get into a shootout like they did yesterday, um, you have 6 or 7 of those, and those are those games it comes down to, you know, game of inches, luck at times, and you getting 6 and 7 of those. Sometimes it works for you, sometimes it doesn't. So, but,
Yeah. At the very least, we now know that they are definitely on must see
oh yeah,
TV every week.
oh yeah, oh yeah,
And I've always loved Colorado's uniforms, that color scheme, or it's that black and glittery gold looks real good.
yeah.
Like the uniforms yesterday with the white helmet.
Oh man,
Would rather see black numbers on gold, and so you
yeah,
felt bad for the
man.
announcers and the spotters. That's a tough one to pick out. But look good. They look good. They look like a Deion Sanders coach team, man.
Yeah,
They look prime time.
yeah, had a lot of swag, a lot of,
Mm-hmm.
and he definitely, and some of that too. You know, we're seeing it as such a big upset, but we're thinking more of the mindset. Colorado was 1-11 last year. I think we're looking at that at a 21-point deficit more than necessarily what Dion actually brought in because
Mm-hmm.
90% of that roster was not in Boulder last year.
Right.
So I mean, it's a
They,
completely different team. Still an epic story, but much different than what you're going into that game looking at on paper anyway.
mm-hmm. Yeah, you mentioned that turnaround. It's unprecedented in college football.
Yeah,
Um, just how much. So that was a big thing coming in. We just didn't know what this team would look
right.
like. We
We
knew
didn't
Shador
know.
Sanders, had talent, but we didn't know if it would translate to this level. We knew Travis Hunter was the real deal, and he just exceeded expectations somehow.
Right. Yeah, I guess the big thing for them now is they've reached that such a high level week one. Can they keep it up? I mean, that's the big thing. So that'll be, interesting to see. Can they keep that up every week to that level? Now other teams are saying, well, damn, we don't want to be the next team to get put on the week's worth of highlights. So, I mean, other teams are going to come in with the added look because, hey, it's prime, it's Colorado, and they're actually winning games.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
um,
But yeah, we mentioned next week Nebraska comes to Boulder, reignite that old rivalry.
all right,
Another
that's
big
interesting.
Fox, big noon game, whatever they call it. 11 Central. But yeah, moving on. Other kind of notable games this week. Utah on Thursday night. Utah and Florida kicked off. Utah just kind of dominated them. Um,
Yeah, kind
no
of.
Cam Rising didn't matter. Both quarterbacks were making plays for them. They just look. I mean, they just pushed Florida around.
They bullied them.
They really did. And my takeaway from that is, I think Utah. Obviously, they get talked about, and they're back-to-back Pac-12 champions. But this year, and even us, we kind of talk more about USC and Washington as possible champs and playoff contenders. That was a put some respect on our name game by Utah.
Yeah, it
Um,
was.
it's an SEC team. Granted, Florida, I think what we learned about Florida there is, you got to give Billy Napier some time because I think Dan Mullen left that cupboard dry.
Yeah,
I think he left that program in bad shape from his lack of recruiting.
yeah.
A little similar, kind of like Jimbo at Florida State. Jimbo at least won a national title there, but when he was done, I mean, he left that
It was
that
bad.
roster in shambles, and it's taken a few years for them to
Get
actually
back.
get back to
Right.
contender. And so same thing here with.
Yeah, that offensive line was just looked bad, and it, and they obviously knew it because they really didn't. The running game, they didn't. I mean, they have a solid core of running backs, and they didn't even really try to run the ball. I mean, not that they were going to be able to, but they got away from that fast. And throwing for over 300 and some yards for Graham Mertz, that's not going to win a lot of games there. That's a sign of a long season. I mean, he did better than I thought he would, but that's not the way Florida's going to win games is by passing.
No, yeah, yeah, exactly. Graham Mertz, 333 yards, touchdown, and a pick. Looked better. Is he the answer to turn them around? Probably not. But like we said, that roster probably needs, and I think Napier's doing good in recruiting. So,
He's
and
been
Florida's
recruited.
not.
Yeah,
And Florida's one of those places where if you get people to believe, then
yeah.
they're gonna be great with you in a couple years of good recruiting
So
classes.
this might be a very long season in Gainesville.
Yeah, at the beginning of the season, seeing some people like Stuart Mandel picking them to go 3-9, I was like, that's ridiculous. There's too much talent there. But man,
And
ooh,
then after that, you're like, well,
yeah,
well,
exactly. You're like, ooh, man, it might be a rough season. And we knew it was going to get worse before it got better there, but it might get really bad.
yeah.
They get McNeese next week, so that's hopefully a win. But then after that,
Yeah,
Tennessee. And, the schedule does them no favors. The end of the month they have to go to Kentucky. And we kind of talked about their middle to end of season. It's just that murderer's row toward the end of the year where they get Georgia, Arkansas, at LSU, Missouri, then Florida State. It's could be a rough one if they don't get a couple wins in these next few weeks. It might be a really, really rough season down in the
It
swamp.
could be. And that's the thing, like the Florida fan base, sometimes they're unrealistic.
Hmm.
They have winning pedigree, so that there's like a lot of programs that when they expect winning, they don't have a lot of patience. So uh, hopefully they're because yeah, after McNeese, I mean McNeese, Charlotte, maybe Vandy. Outside of that, there's nothing there like that's a win
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
There's no easy. There's nothing you can write in pen on their schedule beside McNeese, and you would hope Charlotte. But yeah, so we'll see there. And we mentioned Utah. That was their kind of that was a statement game by them.
It
Even
was,
if Florida's down, that's a like, hey,
they had a
and they
crowd and they oh physical. That's what
yeah they
Utah is, a physical team.
and they travel to well, we thought, well, I mean, could still be. They travel to Baylor next week in Waco. Um,
Wow,
Baylor upset by Texas State, the Bobcats, first ever
yeah,
win over a Power Five program.
on the road.
Um, and they were putting it on them for a while there too. I think Baylor made it a little close, but
By 20 still.
yeah, the other day, yeah, it was just not surprising. Baylor was my sneaky pick in the Big 12 when we did our preview. I thought they would have a bounce back year,
It's
but
already hit.
lost 42-31. Man, that's I
Not
don't know how you do that. And of course, and then maybe the catch of the year already
wow. Was that?
by one of those Texas State guys. But yeah, so now could be make that even more dangerous game for Utah now because Baylor would be
Yeah,
desperate. But
exactly.
let's see elsewhere. Um, Staying out west a little bit, Washington and Boise played a game that I thought would be a lot closer, but Washington beat the ever loving shit out of Boise.
That is it.
Um,
They,
56-19.
yeah,
It was close for a little bit. Boise even led after the first quarter, but then that second quarter, Washington turned it on, and then fourth quarter
Michael
really put it away.
Michael Penix Jr. 4 touchdowns in that second quarter.
Mm-hmm.
He and he was surgical with it. And he was just hitting
Mm-hmm.
beautiful throws. Wow, that's that offense has a lot of talent. I guess again the biggest thing, like most Pac-12 teams, is the defense probably needs to get a little better there long term. But man, they're gonna be a team that you don't that's gonna give defensive coordinators going up that week. They're not getting any sleep.
No. Yeah. Yeah, Michael Penix made his Heisman statement right there.
Yeah.
Finished with 450 and 5 touchdowns through the
Ooh,
air. Um, let's see elsewhere. Top 25 games. Tennessee took them a while to get going, but once they did, they blew out Virginia. Joe Milton, not super spectacular numbers. They really kind of ran the ball more, but
yeah,
they only had 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. But right there for Tennessee, 115 yards on the ground and only 12 carries.
yeah.
So maybe a little bit more running base this year. Who knows? See, Georgia took care of business against UT Martin. Another slow start for them, but they got humming. Michigan, easy win over East Carolina. Ohio State, not the impressive
Not
win you maybe thought they would
really-
over Indiana. I mean,
The
they won
offense,
23 to
that,
3, but
that offense definitely wasn't moving like people thought. I mean, they got a lot of talent there. Just McCord looked average, but hey, it's early in the year. I'm sure they'll start looking a little better. I think they have a little bit till they have a big game. So
yeah, their schedule allows them to kind of fine tune things, replace
yeah,
CJ Stroud. You do hope that did Marvin Harrison Jr. come back into that game? Um,
I I don't know,
You
to
know, he
be
got
honest.
hurt early, so you really hope because he's a great. You know, you don't want a guy
Yeah.
like that injured, especially an opening game. But yeah, they have Youngstown State, then Western Kentucky up next before traveling to South Bend and Notre Dame the 23rd.
Hmm. So
Um,
you got a couple weeks to get it.
yeah, to fine tune the offense before um, Notre Dame played Tennessee Tech. They played Tennessee State. You know, easy win
Hey,
there.
yeah.
Um, let's see, Texas kind of ho hum
Yeah.
over Rice. USC blew out Nevada. Penn State again kind of
Second,
slow. Took them a while, but put away West Virginia.
Drew
They did
Aller,
maybe have their quarterback now.
yeah, Drew Aller looked like a stud out there that second
Uh huh.
half.
Yeah. This may finally be, you know, if James Franklin, you know, if he can get out of his own way, maybe they finally got their guy there to
Hmm.
take them to the next level.
Yeah.
Oregon put 81 up on Portland State. Um,
Yeah. Man, yeah. Even though it's Portland State, 81 is still usually just like,
yeah,
what?
81's
It's just like
insulting. You know, and then Oklahoma's 73 to nothing over
that.
Arkansas State. Dylan Gabriel looked pretty good.
Wow, he did look
Um,
good.
let's see, North Carolina, South Carolina. Kind of was maybe a little surprised. It wasn't quite the shootout we thought it would be. That North Carolina defense.
The defense got after it. They
Uh-huh.
really they handled South Carolina pretty effectively. They got after the quarterback. Maybe some of it's too that South Carolina line not being very good, but
Mm-hmm.
for what for week one and all the questions about the North Carolina defense, they definitely answered the call.
Yeah, 31-17 win in the Dukes Mayo Classic. You know, Spencer Rattler still threw for 353, but no scores.
He had
So
a, I
yeah,
mean, numbers wise, I mean, he didn't. It was a solid game, but yeah, they just couldn't score. And North Carolina had Drake May had two picks, and they still didn't seem to affect it.
yeah, they just couldn't capitalize, take over. Let's see, Ole Miss also had a big score, 73-7 over Mercer. Luke Fickle's debut at Wisconsin, 38-17 over Buffalo. You know, for all the talk about the air raid, they still ran the ball. They're Wisconsin, they run the ball.
Yeah, they did.
Um, anything else? I see Tulane claims Mardi Gras for New Orleans with a win over South Alabama. Um, I don't know if anybody saw that, but South Alabama did a little troll job. You know, Mobile and New Orleans folks always talking about where the true home Mardi Gras is. You know, Mobile it started there. New Orleans does it better. South Alabama on their helmets in the back of it, it said the home of Mardi Gras. And they had a little kind of Mardi Gras logo there, but Tulane wins by 20 fairly easily.
Fairly easy. I thought maybe we'd maybe been a little closer. So
Yeah,
yeah,
but
pretty good out there.
Tulane making a statement saying, you know, we're not ready to take a step back.
Exactly.
And let's see, Iowa did not reach 25 points. 24-14 win over Utah State. And of course, we still got a couple coming up. You know, Oregon State plays at San Jose State coming up here shortly. And of course, the big one tonight, LSU and Florida State.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow, what a lot of people are picking as an kind of an upset special is Clemson visits Duke to start a little Monday Night Football. I don't see that upset happening, but we'll be
Yeah,
tuned
I
in
don't know if it's
nonetheless.
upset, but that 13 points seemed a little high.
Yeah. You know, and see elsewhere we stay, you know, SEC, you know, just nobody, you know, like we said, there wasn't much of on this way of the schedule this week.
Mhm.
You know, just everybody playing, you know, kind of ho hum games. A&M with
Yeah.
the easy victory of New Mexico, Kentucky easy victory over Ball State, Arkansas over West
They,
Carolina. Auburn
yeah,
struggled at first, but then really put it on UMass.
yeah.
Um, State with a easy win over Southeast Louisiana. Vandy goes to 2-0 over Alabama A&M. Uh, yeah. Anything else from yesterday you want to hit on?
I guess for the most part, I guess just the upsets in the Big 12. We already talked about Baylor, but Texas Tech went to Laramie and took a loss,
Oh,
and
that's
that was
right.
a lot for pretty excited about this Texas Tech team. It's kind of a dark horse in the Big 12. I mean, still very well could be. Maybe Wyoming's a good, going to have a good season and won't look so bad. Kind of a weird spot to go for your first game to go on the road to Laramie. It's not a
Hmm.
kind of a dangerous. I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily pick that as a place to go, but
As a co-founder of the Alabama Take, Caleb Johnson, who did his graduate school time in Laramie, says you don't go to 72,000 feet and walk away with a win. Uh, and Texas Tech did not.
did not.
From down in
Too old.
Lubbock up there in the heights. It was a
Yeah,
good game.
it was a
Uh,
good game.
a good nightcap to finish a good day of football. But yeah, like you said, we talked about Tech being, kind of a Big 12 dark horse. It's tough, and then now Oregon comes to Lubbock at least, but
Yeah.
or no,
Yep. Oregon's
yeah,
coming in to Lubbock on Saturday, I believe.
that's right, yeah, um,
Yeah, and that was a game we like waited, but now, I mean, it's one of those games now. Does it become more dangerous because now Tech is angrier, or does Oregon
hmm
not take it as serious? So that's one way to look at it. But man, I didn't think it was going to be easy to go into Laramie and win just because that's a different atmosphere. But and I was kind of shocked they actually took the loss. That they took the loss there. So,
yeah. Now that's something, Now Wyoming puts themselves on the map kind of for a that Mountain West. Maybe
no, sure.
contenders sneak up if they can play well, get to that New Year's Six themselves.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm trying to look at the rest of their schedule. They'll Portland State next week, so it's a game they should win. And
They'll be fine
of
there.
course, they do have to travel to Austin week after next. So, but oh yeah, and then they get App State at home too. So, okay, but yeah, good win for the Cowboys.
Yeah,
Um,
good win for them.
mhm. And then let's see, looking ahead to next week. Of course, the big one, Texas and Alabama. Um, do you feel better or worse, the same after yesterday as an Alabama fan heading into this Texas game?
Ah, honestly, I feel kind of the same.
Mhm.
I think it's one that we're gonna be ready for because they've heard a lot. Oh, they escaped last year. The ref saved them. Texas should have won the game if the quarterback doesn't get hurt. Alabama loses. So they've heard it all year. So I think they're gonna be ready to go for this one.
Mhm.
It's a home game. It's gonna be nighttime in Tuscaloosa. Not too many teams come in and win at night in Tuscaloosa. It's gonna be a good atmosphere because for the amount of criticism and rightfully so at times the fans, I thought last night's atmosphere was pretty lively for a Middle
Mhm.
Tennessee State game. I liked it,
Yeah,
and
no, they the fans brought it.
if they brought it last week, this past Saturday, 6 o'clock Saturday night, Tuscaloosa is gonna be rocking.
Mhm.
So I'm excited.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm just looking forward to the game. I do feel a little bit better about Jalen Milroe in the offense now. And like I was really excited to see, like we said, how hungry the defense is. So that
Yeah,
I think they'll be hyped at home too. Like you said, that crowd will give them the boost, that prime time under the lights. Um, I think that they'll be hungry. They'll want to make a big win, a big statement. So I'm looking forward to it. Um, Elsewhere, some other notable matchups next week. Notre Dame travels to NC State. Could be tricky. Could be easy.
that's
We
an
mentioned
interesting
you.
game. Just
Mm-hmm.
because
It's an
I
early one
mean,
too.
yeah, 11 a.m. ABC. NC State, not the easiest place to go to. Their crowd can get kind of, for the ACC, get kind of wild.
Yeah.
Really outside of Clemson, Florida State, you don't think of great crowds, but NC State maybe a little underrated there. But
No.
yeah,
Yeah.
that
Raleigh loves their sports, man. They will show up for their the NC State teams. It's also the home of the Carolina Hurricanes. Raleigh's a good little sports town. Um, Other notables, as we mentioned, Utah going to Baylor, Nebraska going to Colorado. Let's see. Ole Miss travels to Tulane. That's
That'll be
yeah,
a good one. Two
it's a really
thirty
good
on
one. Yeah,
2:30.
midday, 2:30.
Texas and Miami next week.
Mm-hmm.
That'll
Yeah.
be a sneaky good one. App State going to North Carolina.
Oh yeah. We just hope that you get anything near last year's game, man. That
Uh,
wild 63-61
man,
comeback, just crazy
that
game.
crazy game.
Anything, SMU, impressive showing yesterday. They'll go to Norman, play Oklahoma. They've been saying for years they got the official invite to the ACC. I guess we should mention that Cal, Stanford, and SMU will become ACC members. It makes no sense. Whatever. Who cares?
I mean, you're happy, yeah, for those teams, but I mean, what I read is that what SMU gave away 9 years of TV money just to be part of the ACC. If I read that
Yeah.
right,
So what does it do for you? You just got to travel a bunch. You also just
for
you
lunch, and you're
you
part of
put
the.
your non-football sports out on the as whatever.
It's not the
And
prettiest thing, but
no, and I've been saying for years, I wish somebody would give SMU a shot, but come on, like no reason that they shouldn't be a Big 12 team.
yeah,
But yeah, and then of course, to finish up that realignment thing too. Of course, it doesn't seem like it really will keep. Is that going to keep Florida State, Clemson, and UNC around?
yeah,
If
long
they,
term.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean these teams being added no excitement to the other ACC teams. Like you're like, oh, okay,
yeah, and I don't see why a TV network would want to pay more for them. You could talk
no.
about the academics, but whatever. Okay, TV doesn't pay for academics. They
I
don't
mean
care.
the wins that I take away from these additions. You get somebody in the Dallas Fort Worth market, which is a big market. Whether
Hmm.
they SMU doesn't have the biggest fan base, and not how much of that add, who knows? But that's at least a good market to get into, and just I guess you now have a foothold in Texas for recruiting. So
Hmm.
you, other than that, I don't know what it really does for the ACC long term or TV money. Because yeah, if you weren't interested in giving the ACC big TV money before, I don't think this was like, oh wow.
Yeah, and then what does it do down the road? Like I think we mentioned it in our realignment talk, but at some point you got to think that when this inevitably turns into some Super League, Premier League type thing, teams are going to start getting trimmed. And does SMU or Cal or Stanford survive that cut?
And does
Whatever.
most of the ACC survive that
Yeah,
cut?
exactly. Like we said,
Because
it doesn't seem like it keeps Clemson, Florida State, and UNC around. And
no,
but
and
anyway,
all these moves are about football.
mhm,
Because the rest of the sports don't make any sense. Why you would want to move across the country? Uh,
yeah,
or I mean, everything's football related. We all know that because that's your bread and butter. That's where the most money comes from. It's not for anything else other than football and TV money, no matter what they tell us. But yeah, there's a lot of teams that are not going to make that long term cut to these super leagues.
mm-mm.
If it-
No, for sure. And then when it happened, when the Oregon Washington news happened, we saw a bunch of softball players come out and say stuff like, the reason I went to school here is so my family could still see me up and down, the West Coast. And now you're killing that for non-revenue sports,
exactly.
going literally across the country.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's new?
Let's
Greedy people getting
say,
greedy.
let's just say Big Ten, not exactly softball fanatics.
Yeah. Um, again, let's see. Next week, going down the list again. Late night games. We mentioned Texas, Alabama's a headliner. Oregon going to Tech. Um, Wisconsin goes to Pullman to play Washington State. That one's a little interesting. That
It is
strange
interesting.
place.
Cam Ward looked
UCLA. What's up?
dumb. I was saying Cam Ward, the Washington State
Hmm.
quarterback, he looked good last night.
Yeah. UCLA goes to San Diego State, big time Pac-12 killer. Could be a
Hmm.
tricky one late on CBS. Uh, Auburn makes a weird trek out to Cal. Speaking of Cal, that's a late night 9:30 ESPN game.
That's a different game.
Yeah, and
They
then
probably never played.
yeah, I don't know if that's ever been a matchup. And then I guess a future Big 12 matchup now. Oklahoma State will travel to Arizona State late as well. But yeah, I was looking forward to next week. It should be, like I said, it's a little bit better of a slate, a couple of big time games.
Yeah,
Um,
different premier games.
yeah. And as always, you talk about that week 1 to 2 adjustments. So we'll see maybe which teams improve, which teams maybe weren't as good as they look this week. Um, we'll learn a lot more next week.
For sure.
But moving on here, let's talk some NFL real quick. I'll do a quick little preview. It starts this Thursday with the Lions and Chiefs. Um, Lions getting a lot of hype. Chiefs are the Chiefs, defending Super Bowl
Yeah,
champs. So what we're going to do real quick, I'm going to go through each conference. I'll give you a list of definite contenders, like teams that we know they're going to be Super Bowl contenders,
yeah,
maybe contenders, and we could talk about why they will, why they won't. And
yeah.
then I got a who knows category, just teams that could go anywhere from sneaking into the Super Bowl conference championship game to a 5-win season.
Yeah.
So let's start in the AFC. For my definites, I have the Chiefs, Bengals, and Bills. Any comments, arguments there?
I think we're kind of good there.
Yeah, exactly. If you the one where you might have that Joe Burrow injury in
Yeah,
Cincinnati, if the calf injury, if that doesn't heal right, that's kind of a scary
that
one.
that
Um,
changes a lot. I think he
yeah,
was back last week practicing. So
he has his first time practicing all fall. Didn't really play preseason.
mhm.
I hope for my fantasy team's sake he is good too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one to watch. But yeah, I think like you said, we're pretty safe. No arguments there.
Mhm.
Um, for my maybe contenders, I have three solid: the Dolphins, the Ravens, and the Chargers.
Mhm.
Teams where they have the talent level, but things could go wrong. But also, if they go right, there's no reason they couldn't contend as well.
For sure.
Agree?
Yeah. For me, for mine, I would probably put the just on paper, I'd probably put the Jets in that category. But
Hmm.
the three that you have definitely there, for sure.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I just think, and like it's, can the Chargers improve on defense? Can their receivers stay healthy? Dolphins, can Tua stay healthy? Um, and the Ravens, I think, we'll see if that offense and Todd Monken is at the real deal. And then they need to find a pass rush, and they need to hope their cornerbacks, that's going to be rough. I think people might be able to throw on them this year. Marlon Humphrey out for a few weeks, and the rest of their cornerbacks are, whew, it's a little sketchy. Two good
Mhm.
safeties, and Marcus Williams and Kyle Hamilton. But
Yeah.
thinking the Ravens, I'm hoping that offense is as good as they say it's going to be, because they might need to win some shootouts this year. Um, I had the Jets in my next category, the who knows. I got the Patriots, Jets, Browns, Steelers, and Jaguars. The Jets, Aaron Rodgers coming in, but it's not Aaron Rodgers, of 5 years ago, even, or 10.
Yeah.
It's 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers. He does have
But
talent around him. He's got a lot of talent, more than he's had the past couple years in Green Bay. So, and we know that defense is the real deal. Um, so yeah, but they are maybe the toughest division in football. Um, that's where I put
yeah,
them. But yeah,
yeah,
one more time, the Patriots, Jets, Browns, Steelers, Jags. What do you think about that group?
yeah. I mean, I would say definitely all in that category of you don't know because you could give a reason why all of them have exceptional seasons, but you could also see maybe not near. Yeah, definitely all fit in that category.
Yeah. The Steelers, I thought maybe people were talking him up too much because I'm not, Kenny Pickett played well, but I don't know if he's, is he a get your guy to the Super Bowl quarterback?
Right.
But then I saw where Mike Tomlin gifted the whole team black Air Force Ones, and ooh, okay, Pittsburgh's back.
Yeah,
uh,
that's
they're gonna,
a thing that they have talent
uh
of putting it all together again.
yeah,
Prob-
they need to if their offensive line needs to improve still. As
yeah, that offensive line will get you killed. And
Yeah, if they can open up holes, some people think that Warren may take over Najee Harris's job there, or maybe they end up with two really good backs. Who knows? We know George Pickens is the real deal, and Kenny Pickett played really well. They went 7-2 down the stretch last year. So,
yeah,
um, but yeah, and then the Jaguars on paper should run away with the AFC South.
you would think.
You would think, but yeah, you never know. You don't know how much is Sean Payton really going to make a difference in Denver. Is Russ cooked, or was this just like a
Yeah,
last year thing? The Browns I put in that category, but I'm also with them. I'm like, I believe it when I see it type thing.
right,
They're the Browns. Yeah, they have talent, but when does it ever actually come together? You know.
right. Yeah, the Browns are still the Browns,
Mm-hmm.
and but yeah, they definitely. I mean, if Deshaun Watson gets back to what Deshaun was before everything that happened with him, I mean, and as much as they gave him guaranteed money, you would hope for Cleveland's sake that he reaches
Yeah.
that level because not only did they give him everything, but then they changed the whole quarterback market. Like, they guarantee money because now everybody looks at that like, wait a minute, why is he getting that? And I've been doing this and I didn't
Mm-hmm.
get in trouble. So,
Yeah.
but
And then maybe you could throw the Titans in that category as well, just because Derrick
yeah,
Henry and
Derrick Henry,
they're
DeAndre
really well
Hopkins,
coached. Yeah, DeAndre Hopkins there now. Um, Traylon Burks, if he can, recover from last year's injury.
yeah,
There's
because I
a
mean
team with talent, and they're really well coached.
they are.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, if Traylon Burks is healthy, that with DeAndre Hopkins, I mean, that's a quite could be a heck of a duo.
mhm.
Derrick Henry stays healthy. I mean, really, I mean, last year it was a Titans division until they kind of got hurt and fell apart at the end of the year, and then
Yeah, they had a lot of
Jackson,
injuries for them. A lot of kind of really derailed their season.
right?
Um, but yeah, moving to who do you think who comes out of the AFC to the Super Bowl this year?
You know, AFC to the Super Bowl, man. There's just so many. You know, the AFC is kind of taken over as a dominant conference because there's a lot of good teams there. A lot. You know, it's
Yeah,
crazy. It's hard to go against the Chiefs. I mean, until you see the Chiefs actually lose that game, you know, in a playoff game or the AFC Championship game, it's hard to go against the Chiefs just because they know how to win. They put it together last year. But I guess their biggest thing is that that defense. Uh, but it's hard to go against the Chiefs until proven otherwise. But they have a lot of teams that are right there with them. It's just a matter of taking the Chiefs out.
yeah, exactly. You're tempted to pick the Bills or maybe like a hot candidate, the Bengals get back or like the Jets. But yeah, until somebody knocks off the Chiefs, you talk about who they have at receiver. It didn't matter last year. Uh,
Yeah,
as long as you got Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid running the show.
yeah, because Pat Mahomes makes guys you never heard of look like decent receivers.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of like those years in when Tom Brady was making unknown people look decent
Hmm.
in New England, but if they leave that system, they're not the same. So, uh, So you'll see, people leave and they're going to get hyped after a good year in Kansas City. But yeah, that there's just that system and what they have in place with their, coaching staff. And I guess the biggest thing is how much the Chiefs. I guess biggest question on offense is just how much does that change with the OC being going to Washington now? I don't know. There's always that debate. How much did he have say in that offense? But I still think the Chiefs are going to be what the Chiefs have been, and very much anything less than at least the AFC Championship game, I'd be shocked.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. Moving to the NFC, we're definite contenders. I just had two. I had the Eagles and the 49ers. Those are two teams we know will probably be right there in the thick of it.
Yeah,
Um, and then that next level, got the Cowboys. It's kind of weird. It's like the Cowboys are kind of a cut above the other teams, I think. I don't know if they're like the Eagles Niners level. They certainly could be,
yeah,
but I think they should be, above a category with, the Giants and the Lions and, you know, uh, who else? The NFC is kind of weak this year to me. There's a lot of
yeah.
teams that, could be in a playoff hunt, but there's not a lot outside of really those three that I expect to get to the Super
Super
Bowl.
Bowl run. Yeah,
Yeah, you agree?
I'm definitely on board with you there. Like the AFC is definitely taking over as a powerhouse conference. There's definitely some NFC teams that you'll say, well, they're definitely a playoff contender. But yeah, Super Bowl, and honestly, like you said, out of Philly and San Francisco, no one has proven that they can get there. So
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's a lot of unproven. The Giants played well. Brian Daboll's got them coached right. Do things break that way? Do they have the talent level for it? Washington looked good during the preseason, but it's Sam Howell guy that gets you to the Super Bowl. The Lions are getting all this love and hype, but are they ready? Are they really there? It's kind of like Cleveland. They're Detroit. We don't
yeah,
until
it
we
is
see it.
Detroit. And last year, they kind of snuck up on some folks, but
Mhm.
now when people are one, it's the one thing when no one expects you to do anything, you kind of show up and. But when people are kind of looking at you as a team, hey, they're going to be that, they're going to be move up. That's when the pressure comes on. So yeah, we'll see what they do. They definitely have a good foundation in place, I'd say, but yeah, it's definitely still Detroit. It's kind of wait and see.
Yeah, exactly. It's when you want to believe it, um, but we'll see it. And the Vikings, who the hell knows? They got all the talent in the world, Justin Jefferson, but and Kirk Cousins, puts up the numbers every year. But we saw it last year. They're the last unbeaten team, and then 13 wins, and then lost that playoff game to the Giants.
Yeah, and a lot of that's going to come down to that defense.
Hmm.
When they lose games, I mean, they give up a lot of points. So that's really we know how dynamic that offense can be. Just a matter of can that defense give them what they need. But yeah, they're a team that they're good, but you don't believe that. I don't think anybody believes that they're a Super Bowl quality contender. Um,
Yeah,
really, I mean, they got bullied in that playoff game by the Giants.
yeah. The NFC South is just going to be a garbage fire this year. Um,
Yeah.
and who knows? Maybe
Right.
that opens the door for one of those teams to have a better than expected year and get a decent seed, get a home playoff game or two. But uh, is Derek Carr the guy, the answer in New Orleans? Is Baker Mayfield the guy to take over in Tampa Bay, or do they have too much roster turnover? Is the youth on the Falcons ready to make that next step? We know Carolina's not there. Poor Bryce is going to get murdered this year. Um, you just hope that he survives the year.
Yeah, you
And
would
then
hope that.
go ahead.
Yeah, you hope that offensive line comes together and
Hmm.
gets better week by week. 'Cause, yeah, I mean they definitely. Yeah, you just want to see Bryce make it through the year.
Yeah, exactly. And out west, the Seahawks, they, kind of another surprise team last year, do good. And we expect them
Yeah.
probably similar year this year. Are they on the Niners level? Probably not. Can the Rams bounce back? Super Bowl winners 2 years ago and just awful last year. Um, is Aaron Donald still a Ram after the trade deadline? Uh, the Cardinals should be awful.
They are a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
They are
Yeah.
in the excuse me. They are already in the quarterback ladder. Like they're right there, ready to draft. Like they're ready
Yeah.
to go.
For Caleb
Caleb
Williams. Yeah.
Williams,
They're
come on
they're ready
down.
to move on from Kyler seemingly.
Excuse me.
It's
Doesn't seem
crazy.
like
Who
he's
knows?
at all. Sure.
Maybe he goes back to baseball. But yeah. So yeah, I think we mentioned it's one of those three. It's the Eagles, the Niners, or the Cowboys are your favorites to emerge as a Super Bowl champ or
For sure.
NFC champ. Um, but who knows? Maybe someone surprises you. Um, yeah. Anything else NFL related before the season kicks off?
Not a whole lot. I think it's a long season, so I mean we'll see a lot of different changes. And that's the thing where we'll see a lot of big, week one overreactions. That's probably the funniest thing about the NFL is the overreaction you get from a hot start, and then by the end of the year, just completely different. So, but I think should be a solid season. But for me, the regular season is kind of ho hum, but the once we get to that playoffs, so that's when the NFL is top notch. Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. Yeah.
playoffs the last couple years have been pretty epic. So
hmm Elsewhere in the world of sports, let's see, this early, I guess this morning, yesterday, late last night, U.S. lost to Lithuania
and this
in the
morning lost.
FIBA World Cup, but that was like the last of the group stage, right? So they
Yeah,
get the quarterfinals coming up.
yeah.
Still a surprise loss there. And they'll
Lithuania
get
shot the light. I think they're like
yeah,
17
they were
some from 3-point range.
just draining everything. Yeah, they get Italy. The U.S. gets Italy in the quarterfinals coming up.
Be fine.
So we see there. Major League Baseball, races heating up. The Braves and Dodgers had a big one this weekend. The Braves have taken the first three. Like Ronald Acuna homers in each of three games. Him and Mookie Betts kind of going a
Man,
little head to head for NL MVP. The crazy first game of the series, Ronald hit a grand slam. The Braves were up 7-1. The Dodgers came back. Mookie had two home runs. Um, the Braves held them off, and they won. Then next night, Max Fried just looks like the ace that he is, just shuts them down. And last night, Acuna hits the hardest ball hit in the majors this year, exit velocity of 121.2 miles an hour. Hit it 454 feet to straightaway center. Um,
he's just been epic this year.
yeah. You can't go wrong if you look at their numbers and what they mean to their team. Either of those guys is a good MVP choice. Of course, as a Braves fan, I want Ronald to win it. But yeah, that's and then maybe looking at the voting too. Maybe with Freddie Freeman also having a great year, that might hurt Mookie out there in terms of
You're right.
voting.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's if that's an NLCS preview, then we're in
Man,
for
that's quite the treat.
yeah. Some
And I think that
they've run into themselves quite a few times in the past few years. A division series in 2018 or so when the Braves were still young. That big Dodgers comeback and was that 2021,
yeah,
2020. Well, I think that was the
2020.
abbreviated 2020 season. Yeah, the Dodgers came back from 3-1 down
Yeah,
on the NLCS, and the Braves beat them the next year in it to advance to the World Series and then win it.
yeah.
And then we'll see if they meet again this year. Um,
And I think that's what Major League Baseball really hoping for, because some of
Hmm.
those series last year, just because how regional it was, like it kind of the TV for the TV aspect, you definitely were hoping for Braves Dodgers just because Braves fans are everywhere,
Hmm.
um, thanks to TBS.
Yeah.
And the Dodgers said, LA teams always, especially a name like the Dodgers, always have some national love there. So I mean, if you're on the TV side, you're hoping and praying that that's what you get, just because it's gonna get more eyes than anything else.
Yeah. Um, Red Hot Phillies might have something to say about that. Last year's NL champ. They are
Right.
streaking. They've cooled off a little. They've lost three in a row now, but they still should believe they're pretty much a cinch to make the wild card, barring them falling absolutely off. Um, and then yeah, the AL still kind of the same. You know that there's a tight race out west.
Yeah, that West race,
See, yeah, Seattle's really come on of late to take the lead in that division.
they're kind of doing what the Phillies did last year.
Hmm.
Just come on at the
Baltimore
end.
still holding off Tampa Bay for the league's best record.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, should be a couple of fun stretches. You know, a couple of the wild card races should be hot in both leagues down the stretch, and then I mean, you look at the NL wild card right now. They got six teams all within like a few games of each other for only three spots. Um, so yeah, that should be fun. And elsewhere, I don't know anything else from the world of sports you want to touch on before we go.
Uh, I can't think of anything too much there. Um, Pretty much, I think we covered most things. Of course, football is king of everything, and it's been an epic weekend. Have full day of football yesterday, full day of football today, game tomorrow, and it doesn't get better.
Yep, it's the most wonderful time of the year.
For sure.
Well, speaking of which, so put you on the spot. Who you got tonight? LSU or Florida State?
Got Florida State in a tight
Mhm.
one. I think that they win again.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that pseudo home field advantage. And I think they're hungry to take that next step.
And
Prove that they're a contender.
right, because I mean, you look at it. I mean, it's a bigger, as far as like contender. I mean, it's definitely a bigger game for them in the sense that if they lose that game, it's hard come out the ACC. I mean,
Hmm.
they have absolutely no. Of course, neither team would have any room for error, but they impressive, win pretty convincingly. LSU, as we saw last year, I mean, they could lose that game, and you win the SEC West, you get into the SEC championship game, and then who knows. But,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If Florida State loses tonight, they have to run the table in the ACC.
exactly.
And LSU lost, like you said, they can still, they end up SEC champ, and they're probably in still.
Right, they're still. But I expect it. I don't think it's going to be as crazy, just because I think both teams are better than some of the things that led the points last year. But I think another very close game, because a lot of fronts are pretty even. I guess the biggest difference this year, really, like Harold Perkins didn't play last year, so that'll be just
Hmm.
to see what he does in year two, because last year he was a beast. Of course, he's gonna be a beast. But when coaches start game planning for you, that's how you really see if you're a superstar. When they game plan for you and you still kill, that's when you know you're on a different level. So that'd be interesting to see how that goes.
Yeah, and then right now, I agree with you. I think it's going to be just as fun to watch, but in a different way. Last year was kind of like a shit show fun. I
Yeah,
think tonight's just going to be a really well played game.
right.
Sitting at right now, LSU is still a 2 point favorite, according to Caesars. A couple other different lines that dropped it down to 1.5 point.
Hmm.
Um, but
It's
yeah, it
kind of
should
been
be
on
a fun one.
2.5 for the whole time. So I think that's
Yeah,
kind of where we're gonna be at. But
yeah.
I've had
Um,
a been wrong a lot this weekend, so LSU fans, congrats.
All right, then. What's been done up real good for you this week?
Done up real good for me this week. I would just say, my kids in school, they're just doing the thing, doing well on tests and clubs, and good school year for the kids. Can't ask for too much more from them. How about you?
I mean, just football season back in general feels good.
Yeah,
And then I don't know if you caught me on the camera here, but as we're watching Arsenal, big late victory over rival Manchester United.
that's huge.
Like kind of a big early season till like really, really late. Um, 3-1 added 2 goals within the last 5 minutes to.
Nice. That's
Um,
huge.
but yeah, and that's it. Thank you, folks, for listening. As always, subscribe, rate us, give us good ratings and likes, and tell your friends, tell anyone you think would be interested in us. So also give us a listen. Check out everything else on the Alabama Take family of networks. Taking It Down is back for your TV pop culture needs. I believe a new episode of Check Your Shelf dropped today for you literary folks. The Alabama Slam should have a lot to talk about this week with 2 pay-per-views this weekend. WWE Payback, AEW All Out, and then of course the just pipe bomb, if you will, that CM Punk was fired by AEW. I'm sure they have a lot to say about that, or who knows, maybe they've talked about it enough and it's that is that. But so it should be a fun episode this week on that. Of course, listen to everything we have to offer on the Alabama Take Family Podcast, and also check out our site. See how me, Blaine, and Mallory did on our picks this week. I believe I went 1 and 2. Just tradition for me. I always have lousy first weeks. I had I think I said an upset special. I think I had Hawaii +3 over Stanford. That didn't hit. I had Tennessee. They covered. And then I think Army I had, which was looking good until late. Army blew it late. Thought they might, UL Monroe maybe a little stronger than we thought. Who knows? Or Army not as good. But yeah, check us out. See how we did. And like we said, thank you for listening as always. Greg, have a good one, man.
You too, bud.